listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast. My name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since '96, and as always, joining me here this evening is Adam Keys. Adam, are you ready?
I'm ready, Farhan.
Okay, so first question: will this performance be the making of Kai Havertz?
Yes.
Will the players be fit and sharp for the North London derby?
Yes.
And was Raya good enough to start the North London derby?
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. Adam, how are you feeling after that emphatic victory in the Champions League first game?
A little disappointed.
Oh, sorry, Adam. Did we not give you enough
I wanted 7.
excitement?
I wanted
Were you not
7.
entertained?
I was expecting. Honestly, I was thinking during the game, I was like, we can really humiliate them here, and it was one of those. I keep thinking every time that we play someone and we really batter them. It was like Chelsea last season. I was like, go on, just absolutely put 6-7 past this team. Do it the way other teams have done to us over the years. But no, I joking aside, I'm really pleased with that. All the goals were superb. The fact Saka was the guy that got the first goal. I don't think there was a more fitting player to score the return goal for us in the Champions League. All in all, I think it was a great night's work. We didn't really let them create anything. It's another game where we've looked really, really solid defensively. And we played them off the park going forward. So how are you feeling?
Yeah, over the moon, ecstatic. So pleased and so satisfied to not only witness the result but also the performance. It was just the best performance that we've seen this season. Dominated every area of the pitch, and we're gonna delve into it in more detail and analyze it a bit more. But I think this didn't need to be so. It didn't need to be so chaotic. It didn't need to be so wild. It was just, as I said last episode, I'll echo what I said. It just felt really finely tuned, very mature, very they were playing as if they're champions. It was a performance befitting of champions because they didn't need to. Compared to last season, because last season we needed to prove ourselves. We needed to be cutthroat. Whereas this time round, it didn't need to be like that. It was get the first goal, get the second goal. Right, we know we're 2-0 up. Okay, let's control the game a little bit more. Get the third when we can. Manage to get the third. And in the second half, some might call it a little bit drab, a little bit boring, a little bit, too safe. But, at this level, when you're competing for every competition, these are the things that have to be done sometimes. So, yeah. We'll just quickly jump into the starting lineup before we talk about the game itself. I don't know about you, but I was quite surprised to see David Raya start. I was quite convinced that Ramsdale would be put back in the starting lineup. But with that decision being made by Arteta, it does seem like he's quite intent on maybe playing Raya on a more regular basis. I mean, he had a great debut, and tonight he looked even better. But yeah, give me your feelings and your reaction to the starting lineup when it came out.
I would have liked to have seen a bit more rotation, but there were still 3 changes. So overall, happy enough. I probably would have given Tomiyasu the nod, just because I think he's earned it. I was glad to see Havertz back in the team because, again, I think we need to get him minutes on the field. We need to get him games. Raya, I wasn't surprised. I think everyone has this thing in their head. He was coming in for one game. Ramsdale will be back against PSV. We know how ruthless Arteta is, and we need to stop mollycoddling players. Arteta's not doing it. We need to snap out of that attitude that players need to be protected. This is a team that are against the biggest winning machine we've ever seen in this country. They've created a machine more ruthless than Fergie's United, and that's what they're competing against. us protecting Ramsdale and saying, oh, it's all going to be okay. It's not going to do anything for him. It's not going to do anything for us. The reality is it's two keepers that we knew were going to go head to head against each other this season. Raya wasn't coming in to come and sit on the bench and play second fiddle to Ramsdale. He turned down Bayern Munich to come to Arsenal. There were other moves he could have made to come here. And I said it at the time, just like Ramsdale came in and said, I'm coming to take Leno's shirt. He was coming in to take Ramsdale's shirt. And it was on Ramsdale to keep that shirt. So I thought at the weekend, slightly harsh to drop Ramsdale, but I could understand it from a tactical perspective with Raya's catching, with his ball playing ability and his ability to sweep up loose balls, which is exactly how Everton play. As for tonight, I think he did enough at the weekend to keep his place, but I wasn't sure exactly how it would play, but I wasn't surprised to see. It's one of those, I don't think I would have been surprised to see either keeper on the team sheet. But I thought Raya did really well today. And yeah, I think it's going to be a real battle, and those two are really going to have to fight it out. The rest of the team, earlier on I said I would have probably started Tomiyasu, Kiwi, Nelson, and Havertz. I would have played Havertz up front, and then Nelson just coming in for Martinelli. Kiwior left back, Tomiyasu right back. But to be honest, I was happy with the team we saw. I think it's more minutes for Jesus. I don't think it was the most intense game for him either, which there was enough intensity to get those minutes into his legs and enough kind of downtime during the game that he should be sharp for Sunday. So all in all, I was pretty pleased with the lineup. How did you feel when you saw it?
Yeah, I didn't really. It took me a minute to remember that this was our first Champions League. Well, no, we were all sort of building that anticipation, weren't we? During the course of the day, I feel like we haven't really had a day like today where there was so much excitement, there was so much of a buzz. It was, Champions League all throughout the day, the theme tune and Arsenal releasing little clips here and there, just building that excitement. So it was difficult for me to remember that there's a North London derby around the corner, and the conversations that we've had in the past. So when I did see the starting lineup, I was really pleased because it was a really, really strong starting lineup, probably our strongest, bar Martinelli. I think that's the default starting lineup. I mean, you would obviously question when Thomas Partey comes back, whether you'd put him in over Kai Havertz. But, I mean, look how well we've done. We haven't even mentioned Thomas Partey for a good couple of weeks now, and it just goes to show how far we've come and how much we've developed. But, yeah, I can't make any complaints. We had to go strong today because, again, first game in the Champions League for over 6 years. This was always going to be a very special moment because, we need to cast our minds back to when we just missed out on Champions League the season before and how painful that was with the documentary and seeing all the intimate parts of what was going on at Colney and what was going on in the dressing room. It hurt. It hurt to miss out on Champions League. And so Arteta needed to put out a strong team to really taste and get... make the most out of that feeling, that we're here, we've arrived. This is your opportunity now. And it was even me, at the beginning of the game when I was watching the boys in the tunnel, waiting to come out. I couldn't contain the excitement. I was clapping, cheering, whooping, shouting motivation at the TV screen. Usually, I'm quite composed before a game starts, getting my notes ready, just waiting for the whistle to go. But this was different. This was a moment in time. This felt like a really big deal. We've been working so hard to arrive here, and we're finally valuing the competition for what it is. It is the elite competition. It is where everybody wants to be, and it really felt like that tonight. And it was, and so I'm glad to have seen the starting lineup reflect, all of those feelings and stuff. And actually, what an atmosphere the Emirates created as well. I didn't expect anything less, but to see the lights and stuff before the kickoff, it was just it just all built up that excitement. It was. How were you doing throughout the day? What were your kind of feelings like?
I had, to be honest, I had a really busy day at work, and it was one of those where obviously the game's in the back of your mind. I texted you earlier saying I was itching for kickoff, and it was one of those I couldn't wait for the game, and it was the same yesterday. The build up, to be honest, it was the same from the final whistle on Sunday. The minute that game was over, and I'll be honest, now that the final whistle's gone, I'm thinking of Spurs. So there was the excitement of the Champions League, hearing the anthem for the first time, kind of like a Jacob Murphy moment last night, smiling as the anthem's going. But all in all, I just couldn't wait for the game to start. And I had a feeling that we were going to hammer them. There was people online saying, these guys are no pushovers and all this. Never expected them to be. But you have to remember, it's like the standard of where this Arsenal team is now. This isn't a team that scraped into the top four and was building to get into the Champions League. This is a team that narrowly missed out by a point the year before and then has literally gone into a title race with a team that won the treble. That's where we're at right now. And we've also added a £100 million midfielder and a Champions League winner to the mix. So for me, I was very, very confident going into that. I think we can be respectful of other teams whilst also fully backing our own team and where our players are at right now. Even rotation-wise, and this is what I've been arguing with fans on Twitter, when we talk about rotating now, we're not talking about bringing in a youth player or a piece of deadwood that we want rid of. We're talking about bringing in players that could, in 6 months' time, be starters in this team that are really pushing. Like even Fabio Vieira 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have talked about him as a starter. Now you're talking about him as one of our key players. And again, tonight came on and did really well. So I think we just have to realise how good our squad is and how strong the depth is in it. The fact that we've got players like Jorginho to come on and close out games. A couple of years ago, they would have been starters and key men in our team. So, yeah, really like itching to get into the game and really confident just how strong the team is now because, let's be honest, any English team can win the Champions League. The standard of the Prem right now is so high that every team should fancy themselves.
So, sorry about that, Adam. As you were speaking, the sound kind of cut off. We are having some technical issues tonight. I mean, the rain was falling down in London. It was raining cats and dogs. It was stormy. There was some lightning, and it seems to have affected the pod. So, apologies for that. If this bit is a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Disjointed. So, I think it's a good time for us to just go straight into the game and discuss what happened. I mean, so much happened in the opening 10 minutes. And actually, the intent was pretty clear from Arsenal from the very first moment to just go at them. There was so much energy, and it was like the energy was just bursting out. It was like they couldn't contain themselves. Very direct. And I don't know about you, but I felt like maybe they just needed to calm themselves down a little bit. The first real chance did come to PSV. They had the first attempt on goal. It was very tame. There was nothing to worry about, but it just felt like, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. And then things started to flow a little bit more. We saw the first chance from us. It was a lovely poking pass, which stabbed through the PSV defence. I think it was from Odegaard into Saka. Got through and goal, but just didn't manage to get a shot away. And then, we didn't need to wait very long.
There was actually,
before we scored, but before the
penalty. On that moment when Saka was brought down, I felt that there was a shot for penalty, and Saka definitely peeled it, both arms up, he looking around, and I don't think VAR looked at it, but for me there was definitely a nibble there. There was some contact, and the TV screens didn't seem to go back to it, but it was one of those where I was thinking, I want another look at that. And I guess because the goal came so quickly afterwards, they didn't go back to it, but it's definitely something in that.
Yeah, there were a few sort of incidents, weren't there, during the game? I think Zinchenko, VAR went back to see whether Zinchenko played the ball with his hand. It was a really silly one. And there was another one where someone was fouled in the box. I think Jesus was dropped in the box at one point, and it wasn't looked at. Thankfully, we didn't need to rely on VAR. But before we did end up scoring that first goal, tell me what you were kind of impressed with, what your observations were.
I think we were moving the ball well. There was real intent going forward. The rain was beating down all kind. You could really see it in the screen. The players looked soaked from the minute they stepped on the pitch, and the ball was really skimming across the surface. There was a real kind of like, you didn't need to put your foot through the ball. It just carried. There was so much water on the pitch. And the big thing, the very glaring thing right from the off, was that Saka wasn't being doubled or tripled up upon. Every time he cut in, it was like him one-on-one with Dest. And I was thinking, this is going to end badly for one player here, and it's not going to be Saka. So that was very much my first observation, was they're coming at us. They're here to play. And it was, we can really tear this team apart, because any team that comes to the Emirates to play is always going to be in trouble, because, let's face it, we play better football than 99% of other teams. So that was the early observation. It was the energy, the intent, the enthusiasm of the players. Everyone was on it. Everyone wanted to really be involved, get forward. But there also just seemed to be a real kind of calmness about the team, that it felt very early on that we belonged there. It wasn't, I think for me, there was the anthem and then there was the whistle, and my excitement went. It became a game of football that was, we're here to win this, we've got a job to do. And I liked that, because I didn't feel like we were celebrating being here. We had that moment before kickoff. Once the game started, we were there to win it, and you could see the players were just razor sharp, switched on, focused, and that's how they should be. We're Arsenal. We're here to win it.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a matter of, relying on one player to come up with something magical. I think everyone played their role, and especially in the first 5 minutes, I noticed that this was the first game that Jesus was starting, and he was everywhere. He was really busy in the first 5 minutes, appearing out wide, coming in deep to collect the ball, creating chaos in the final third. Really made a big difference, him being there. But also, with all the good work that we were doing, there were, I have to point this out, it's just an observation that I made. I don't mean to be negative, or I don't want to come across as, picking at faults, but I felt like there was a little bit of sloppiness at the back. The ball was 100%. Being flung in the air, rather than moving it in a controlled manner that we're so used to seeing. It seemed a little bit unstable. And the boys were playing, like I said at the beginning, it just felt like they just had too much energy, almost dismissing PSV as a viable threat. It was more a case of, right, we're here in the Champions League, we know we're good enough, let's do it. Let's let everything out. Everything that we've been waiting for, let's just, release. And yeah, moments of sloppiness, but ultimately the goal came, and it was a really, really well worked goal. Odegaard and Declan Rice, for me, the two of them were just magnificent. I think Rice had his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. I think Odegaard had one of his best performances. Talk me through the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, Odegaard gets that bit of space. It's what I talked about, them not doubling and tripling up on players. The ball comes into him. Lovely little flick back. Just as we see every game, where he creates that yard of space, opens the angle up, and he just like scoops it into the bottom corner. Keeper doesn't do enough, and Saka's straight in there, putting it in the back of the net. And it was one of those, interesting what you said about the sloppiness. I actually think that part of the sloppiness came from the weather. So there were quite a few misplaced passes. I actually didn't feel an arrogance tonight. I would have liked to have seen a bit more arrogance and really go at them and kind of put the sword to them. But yeah, when the first goal came, I think it was one of those, it was just Saka right on the spot, straight in. And it was one of those, it really took any nerves away that we had, which probably were more on the fan side than the players. But yeah, great shot from Odegaard, forces the save. And again, it's a very wet night. It bounces in front of the keeper. Horrible place to try and deal with it. And that ball really skites up at him. And it's very, very difficult to deal with. Like if you see a ball come off a wet pitch in front of a keeper at any level, it really bounces 10 times faster. the pace those players put on the ball, it's almost impossible to deal with and catch it from that angle. So the best the keeper can really hope for is a strong palm around the post, and it just wasn't to be tonight for him. And Saka was there to punish him. So yeah, great start, and one of those that it was kind of everything we needed and wanted tonight. And who better to get it than the player that's kind of been the poster boy of the resurgence of the club.
Yeah, and actually, you know, what impressed me most about that goal, and it's going to sound a bit strange, but it was Declan Rice's initial pass which made it all happen. And it was such an intelligently played pass into Odegaard, which kind of, which started the run of play. Rice plays it to Odegaard, shifts it wide to Saka, who plays it back to Odegaard. Odegaard with the shot, goalkeeper palms it away, Saka's in the right place at the right time. So it didn't need to be the most spectacular goal, but it was just so Arsenal-esque. It was so purposeful. You know, it was intended. We intended to play in a way that we wanted to score a goal. It wasn't a case where, you know, we're on the edge of the box, everything's a little bit cagey, we're trying to find a way. That was very cutthroat. It was very well intended for it to be a goal, or for that to result in a goal-scoring opportunity. Very soon after that, there was another big chance. You know, lovely play between Rice, Odegaard, and Saka, but all three of them just looked unstoppable. I don't know. I think there is some sort of a partnership which is beginning to develop between those three players in particular. But he dribbles it onto the edge of the box, Saka, and then plays the ball. I don't know who plays the ball. I can't remember whether it was him, but someone plays the ball across the face of goal, and either Jesus or Havertz make any contact. And it could have been 2-0 inside the first 10 minutes.
But yeah, it was another example, just like the first goal, and what we saw repeatedly throughout, where Saka had Dest completely isolated and has him in a one-on-one situation. And even the first goal, it's Saka running at Dest, creates that space, and he's able to run into the box after he lays it off for Odegaard. Same with this one, where it's Saka finds himself one-on-one with the fullback. Saka hasn't been one-on-one with the fullback for 3 years. Every time he's got the ball, he's had three players on him. So he must have absolutely loved it. What's all this Champions League? Can you do it in the Champions League? It's like one-on-one every day, mate, every day.
So he was having a time of his life, and you could really tell from certain players' performances that they were waiting for this moment. That everything that they were working towards was for that moment. Saka was so free-flowing today, as you said, you know, surprisingly, he just had so much freedom. You would think when you're planning to play against Arsenal, the first player that you would try and isolate is Bukayo Saka, because again, he just demonstrated today he's so good. If he's one-on-one, it doesn't matter who it is, he beats them. Because you don't know whether he's going inside, outside, whether he's going to wait for Ben White to overlap him, whether he's going to drag Odegaard into the play. It's so unpredictable. It's scary. It's scary for a fullback. Anyway, so it's 1-0 to the Arsenal, and I felt like since scoring the first goal, PSV held a bit of possession, and they've done well with it as well, because you could tell that the intensity was still there, the pressing and the pressure was still there. We were still trying to regain possession and hold it, but PSV did quite well for the first few minutes after conceding, and they continued to push and build some momentum on the edge of the box, knocked it around quite effectively. Arsenal were quite happy to let them do that as well, and you used the word arrogance when describing, or the lack of arrogance maybe, to describe the way that we were playing. Maybe we could have been a little bit more ruthless, a little bit more arrogant in the way that we played the ball. I felt like we were arrogant in the sense that we allowed them to keep the ball. We were inviting them into the box, as if we were trying to prove something to ourselves, as if we were trying to prove something to everyone else. Like, you can come to us, we'll let you attack us, but you're not going to get through us. You'll get to the edge of the box, and that's it. We won't let you in. And when you do come in, we'll make sure we'll take the ball off you. Or Raya will be there to make sure that he makes the save look easier than it is, which he did, all game. He was positioned perfectly, no matter what situation that he was in. He made sure that either the ball was picked up nice and comfortably, or that, any low fizzing shots were just, again, saved really in a composed way as well. We didn't have to wait very long, though. PSV were giving them almost a false sense of security. And then the second goal, is scored by Trossard. And this is a really lovely goal because it's a almost like a counter-attacking move. Comes from Ben White retrieving a loose ball, and then Jesus has to do he has to do so much to, number one, get to the loose ball, and then number two, beat his man and then play that into the opposition half. So talk me through the second goal as well, and kind of describe to me what was the standout moments of that play.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant play from Jesus at the start. He gets it out to Saka very well. But for me, it's just the final action to that. I think we were happy to sit back and hit PSV on the counter because it was a wet night. It was clear they had pace on the counter. They had some good players lying on the left. They had Bakayoko, and they had De Jong up front, who is usually a pretty good player in the air, but we were dealing with him with ease. And I think getting them out and letting them come at us, they proved very early on they wanted to play. So let them play a bit. Let's use our wide players, use our pacey striker, and really hit them on the break. So again, with this one, it's another instance where Saka is able to run into the box, and he's essentially got one player to run at. But what I loved about this was Trossard's run. He's checking his shoulder. He's looking both ways, scanning, looking what's around him. He knows exactly where he should be on the pitch. And Saka, he gets the ball, he drives into the box, and it's one of those, he makes that pass look so easy. That isn't an easy pass. That's one of those that 9 out of 10 players make the wrong decision there. And he just checks slightly, creates a bit of an opening for himself, and just whips the ball around, and it's an inch perfect pass, exactly where any forward, any ball striker will want that ball to land. And Trossard catches it just magnificently. And it's crazy to think that's only his third goal for Arsenal, because he got so many assists last year, but he only got the one goal. But that's 2 goals in 2 games for him, and that's going to be a massive confidence boost. But just the clean nature of the strike, how clinical it was, straight into the bottom corner, so much pace, and again zipping off that wet surface, beautiful.
Yeah, and the pass that you just were talking about with Saka, he shouldn't be allowed to make that pass. Really, a player of his caliber, a winger, someone who is known for taking players on or finishing the ball. It's not in his DNA to make that kind of pass. That is an Odegaard-esque kind of pass. It's so good. Really, dude.
Saka has all those things in his locker. Saka could play in midfield. He's got all those things. I think he's one of those true unicorn talents that he has that passing ability, and some of the angles that he can find, it's easy for him. Football he's one of those freak talents that he can just do pretty much everything on a pitch. He can strike a ball, he can pass, he's got vision, he can dribble, he can tackle, he works hard. Honestly, I don't think there's anything Bukayo Saka can't do on a football pitch, and I will die on that hill.
Yeah, I don't think many will argue against you. And, he's 20, right? 20?
22.
He's 20 years old? He's 22 years old. He's got at least 5 years before he hits his prime. Who knows? It might be a Sterling kind of development where he hits 27 and then that's kind of... I don't think so. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, you never know. So,
yeah. But I mean, at this point, like he looks... He's never looked better, I don't think. I don't think he's looked any better than he does now. It's like the moment he picks up the ball, the first touch is almost always perfect. Then the second touch, the way that he touches the ball, you know what he's going to do. The opposition player knows what he's going to do. But it's almost impossible to try and get it off him. It's like he will show you he's going on the outside or he's going on the inside. But you still won't be able to get the ball from him. It's ridiculous, the way he moves it. Let's talk about our good friend Kai Havertz.
He's also added bits to his game. So it used to be Saka would go inside more often than not onto his left. Last year, and slightly the year before, he started adding onto his right. But over the last probably 6-8 months, what he's really added is the ability to feign and go either way and really fool a defender of where he's going to go. So it's his body's beating him, and he can make a defender make the decision. Whereas it was a couple of years ago, he made the decision and he beat them because of his ability. Now he's in the defender's head before he makes a decision. And I would say 90% of the time, Saka knows what he wants to do way before he receives it. But there are those times when you've got two men, you're looking for an opening, and all it takes is a slight nudge to the right, and he's off on the left. And because defenders know he can go to either side, they overcommit, or they're scared to dive in, and they will back off. People are terrified of this guy, and the more defenders live in fear of that, the more dangerous he'll become, because they just hate playing against him.
Yeah, it's the drop of the shoulder that kills the defenders all the time. But moving on, let's talk about our good friend Kai Havertz, who started the game today. I mean, you know, I asked a question at the very beginning. Do you think this was the performance which was the making of Kai Havertz? The reason why I asked you that question is because we were so good, and that performance was, you know, almost as perfect as you would want it to be, that surely Kai Havertz can take this result and take that performance and, you know, use it to, use it going forward into other matches and feed off that confidence. How did you assess his first half performance?
I thought he was good. I thought he was good. That's where I would stop. He had some really good moments where he got the ball in the half turn and he turned and he drove at PSV, which is what we've wanted to see. He got a lot of stick after, I think it was the Forest game, where he had acres of space behind him and he played a really sloppy back pass. But yeah, today we saw him when he was playing as an 8, turning, driving, and really looking up and giving those passes. There were a few under-hit passes that still reached a teammate that I wanted to see more zip on. But all in all, what I liked from him was the intent was there with everything. He looked like a player that knew what he wanted to do, which we haven't always seen in the 8 position for Arsenal. When he played 9 in the Community Shield, he knew his job. He knew what he needed to do. And I think we are going to see a slow evolution of him in that position. But first half, I thought he was good all round. And when you've got Declan Rice behind you, you've got a real sense of security there. When you've got William Saliba behind him and Gabriel, I think you just know you've got a big, big trio of players protecting you. And Zinchenko being on the pitch with him also helps. So all in all, I think it was a team around him that kind of suited his game. Because, again, you have to remember, before Zinchenko came back, he's had Tomiyasu in there, he's had KVR in there, both very good players, but don't give you what Zinchenko does in terms of that technical quality. You have a slightly sloppy back pass, no one notices because Zinchenko deals with it. And Trossard is very, very similar in that sense. If you have a slightly underhit pass, Trossard can make the most of it out of it just because he's so technically strong. Martinelli is a different player to that. Martinelli's first touch is incredible. His ability to drive, retain, control, all those things, brilliant. But slightly different skill set. So I think it doesn't always suit Havertz to the same degree. But yeah, I thought today was the right team. And those 3 worked very well as a trio on the left-hand side. And all in all, I thought he had a good first half. Definitely not the standout in the team for me, but good.
Yeah, he looked a lot more comfortable than he usually does. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm trying too hard to be nice. But I feel like with Havertz, he's having to learn a new role. He's having to learn a new position. And I feel like we're noticing that more and more. The more games that he plays, there is a little bit more sharpness and there's a few more elements that we're seeing in the game. For example, today you're talking about the half turn. He's always been able to do the half turns, but we haven't been able to see it as often. Whereas now he's striking up those relationships, and you know, with players like Declan Rice around him and Zinchenko, as good as they are, you need to know how to play with them. You need to strike up that partnership, strike up that balance as well. And it seemed a little bit more, yeah, a little bit better. You know,
A bit more natural.
there were, yeah, and there were flashes. I think that's why we can't go beyond good, because there were certainly moments in the game where they were like, oh, okay, you know, there was one moment when the ball comes over the top, touch, you know, kisses the ball, touch of an angel, and then he's sort of brought down. I think later on in the game, 80th minute, something like that.
He was
the
playing
PSV
up
player
front at
gets
that
booked
point,
for
though.
it. But he was positioned very much sort of in the center of the pitch where he would be as a number 8 as well, just, you know, getting receiving the ball and then passing it along. But yeah, overall, I felt like he was pushing himself as well until he
Yeah.
got into that number 9 role, where, you know, I felt like maybe he could have done a little bit more. Maybe he could have pushed himself to be
You see,
in those
I feel the
positions to.
opposite.
Do you? But I don't know. I mean, me and my brother were watching it, and I was keeping a close eye on Havertz as a number 9. And I was just continuously, we were both just saying to the screen, you know, kill yourself, get in that position. You know, Emil Smith-Rowe and Nelson have the ball on that side. They're looking for someone there to drive into the box. Why are you not there? So I felt like he could have done maybe more. But again, look, it's the nature of Kai Havertz to be the player that he is. It's not fair to put the Jesus standard on him. Same way it isn't fair for us to expect Eddie Nketiah to do some of the things that Jesus does either. I think we're so spoiled with Jesus, where, you know, he offers so much and he's all round, he's just the perfect striker for us. We want everyone to be that. But yeah, as a number 9, how did you think he did?
I thought he was really good as a 9. So I thought he was okay in the first half. Thought he had a good game. I thought he had a good 7 out of 10. Nothing bad, nothing spectacular. When he went to 9, I was really impressed. And so yeah, with the fourth goal with Havertz, it was very much his play down the right, winning it as that central striker, driving in field. He brings it closer to the box, checks his run slightly, holds it up, whips it across to Smith-Rowe. He plays Nelson in, and a bit heavy-footed from Nelson, but he recovers, and ultimately it leads to a goal. So playing that 9 role, I really liked what I saw from Havertz. I feel he knows the role, he understands it. I'm still wondering where his best position is. Is he a midfielder? Still, jury's out there. Could see him really developing into a top striker, but I think he's a player right now that the game is slowly starting to click for him. If he gets that goal, I think we're going to see a player that really starts to grow quickly, because there's a lot of elements coming into play right now that are starting to click together. He's starting to get to know his teammates, and it's only a matter of time for me before he really starts to kind of run in this team, because there's a big talent there. But all in all, I think it was a good night. I think probably a solid 7 out of 10. Let's be honest, there were a couple of good moments. He had that disguised pass for Jesus in the first half, where he feigned a shot and just kind of clipped it in around the defender, and Jesus didn't quite read it and put it wide. But those kind of things are earmarks of his quality, and I think if he can get a goal or an assist pretty soon, we're going to start seeing him just grow as a player quite quickly in this team.
Yeah, it was a real shame that he didn't manage to get on the score sheet or an assist, because I felt like if there was any game where he could do it, it would be that game. Unfortunate, but look, you know, a good performance all round from Kai Havertz, who's showing us that maybe this is a bit of a slow burn. Just like Arsenal as well, at the beginning of the season, we weren't great. We were good, but we weren't great. And I feel like the more games we play, and this has to be the point now where Arsenal we go flying. And again, a big game on Sunday against Spurs, but it seems like we are the real deal. You know, we are not just a one-hit wonder. Last season wasn't just a fluke. There is a trajectory that's going up. Okay, so with 10 minutes to go until the half-time whistle, we get a little bit rusty, I feel like. And did it ever concern you at any point how open we looked with PSV attacking us, how easily we were letting them in, especially down the left-hand side? it felt like they were just dribbling past red shirts, and we were welcoming them sort of on the edge of the box. Thankfully, David Raya was there to clean up, but it was a bit concerning for me. I was thinking if this was any other Premier League side, we'd be really concerned.
I was more concerned that given how dominant we've been on the ball, we were struggling to retain it, and there was a bit of sloppiness on the ball. Rice had a few misplaced passes. There were just a few passes that I felt I don't quite like that. I wish we played a bit safer. And then as the half was coming down end, we really kind of put our foot in the ball and got a bit of composure back. But yeah, again, I think there was probably there was a ferocity in the game, especially when we scored the third. There was this whole euphoria around the ground. I think that crept into the players a bit. And I think after that we struggled to retain possession a bit because I think we were playing at such a high intensity that we needed someone to just calm things down and kind of see the half out, or just get a bit more control and kind of kill them with 1,000 passes, as Arteta would say. But yeah, obviously we got the goal in the last 10 minutes before half time, and that really killed the game. At that point, the game was over. And what a beautiful goal it was.
What a beautiful goal it was. Jesus finally gets his goal. I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes before that, he was so hungry. There was 2 opportunities for him. One after Saka puts him in on goal, shot saved. Very soon after that, Trossard playing it to him on the edge of the D, takes a lovely shot which is heading towards the top corner, and the goalkeeper makes a really good save of it. This time round, really brilliant finish. A lovely long ball from Gabriel to Trossard. Trossard then plays a lovely long dinked ball over the top for Jesus, who's sort of on the back post. Controls it wonderfully.
Beautifully.
You can see they're both going for it. Odegaard and Jesus are both going for it. He controls it really, really nicely, the first touch, and then the finish is just exquisite, back of the net. And that's it. Arsenal 3-0 up, cruising. And then what happens is... The sound means we are approaching the second half. I feel like everything that could go wrong for this podcast has gone wrong. We've had to re-record twice because of technical problems, blaming it on the rain, sound effects not being set up the right way. We'll get it right eventually, we promise. Second half, Adam. Not really much to talk about, really, because the majority of the work was done in the first. The second half was more about controlling, controlling the way that we hold possession and choosing when to attack and when not to attack. What did we learn in the second half about this Arsenal side? Because I felt like there were quite a few things that we could take going forward into the season. We could use it as almost like a framework of this is what Arsenal's going to be like.
Yeah, I think right from the off, it was that threat down the left-hand side with Lang again. Pacey, close control, dribbling. And I think it was 46 minutes, like right as the game kicked off, they came at us. And he had a nice moment where he dribbled past someone, gets into the box, and Ben White just sweeps up with effortless composure, just walks out of the box. It ends up with Jesus hoofing it, but it was one of those where it showed, again, just how big our defenders are, how strong they are. And I thought Ben White was really strong tonight. He had a couple of iffy moments in and around the time when he got booked, but all in all, it was another great game for him. And he's someone that I think alongside Saliba as well. Saliba throughout the game, I thought he was just majestic. One of those titans of the game where his footwork, there was one point, it was in 64 minutes.
Yeah.
Saliba got the ball. You know what I'm going to say? He literally just pulls it one way, around the other, past his man, and it was just like no one was there. He had 2 men to beat. He gets back and he just does what he does, where he's just bigger than the defender. He's got a better touch. He reads it better. He's got more balance, more grace, all those things. Off he goes and plays a pass sideways and beats his man with ease. And you're like, we haven't had a defender. I don't think we've ever had a defender with those kind of ball playing skills. The closest was maybe Lauren Koscielny at his best, and he didn't take risks like that. So the things Saliba does on a pitch, and this is every game we're seeing these things. And yeah, tonight I just thought there were certain players tonight that looked like they are born to play at that level. Saka was one of them, Odegaard was another, but William Saliba was one for me. He just looked like that was his 100th appearance in the Champions League. Completely composed, and a bit like when he made his debut against Palace last season. First game, tough away ground. He didn't care. He just walked straight in like, I'm here. And that's what it was tonight again. So for me, when you're asking what can we look forward to, what can we see going forward in this, and like the big points of the second half, it was very much Saliba, just the control and the composure he gives you at the back, and the confidence that he gives every one of his teammates around him. And I think he's made Gabriel a calmer defender as well.
He, of all the defenders, he had the most touch. He had 81 touches.
He always does.
Won 2 out of 2 ground duels won, 2 out of 2 aerial duels won. Sorry. He had a pretty perfect game. And again, that moment that you were talking about where he dribbles past, that PSV player with so much grace and ease, he's got no right to do that.
No.
Only Odegaard really has that sort of agility where he can pass players with such grace. But it's within Saliba's DNA. Again, here's another player very similar to Bukayo Saka, where he's a jack of all trades. He can do pretty much anything you need him to. It doesn't matter how pressurized that situation is, and I guess that's what I need to start telling myself. I feel like, because I consciously made a note of the moments where we looked a little bit, little bit slow, maybe lacking in intensity, allowing PSV to come in and almost invite them into our half and into our box. I do need to remind myself that we've got Saliba and Gabriel, who right now, they're right up there as one of the best centre-back partnerships in world football.
100%.
So it shouldn't be much of an issue for them, and it shouldn't be much of an issue for us fans to allow for those situations to happen. Have a breather. When you're playing intense football at 100 miles an hour, you're going to need moments in the game where you're going to need to just cool off, give the opposition a little bit of possession, a little bit of momentum, and then score another goal, hit them on a counter-attack, as we saw. So before we talk about the fourth goal, a few substitutions were made. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? Mikel Arteta making changes after 10 minutes of the second half being played. This really was a perfect game, even for him. Trossard and Zinchenko come off for Nelson and Tomiyasu. Almost immediately, as soon as Nelson comes on, he's involved. He's right in there, in the thick of it. Chances created with Reece. Brilliant to win the ball back, but with a shoulder challenge. Plays it to Havertz, who instead of having a shot, plays a really lovely, clever ball into Jesus, who misses the target. But again, it just showed that, the hunger and the motivation was still there. What can we say about these young players that were coming onto the pitch? Because in previous seasons, substitutions were just, when you brought new players on, it would kill the momentum of the game almost. It would there would be a stagnation of that flow. But when these new players came on, these young players who had something to prove, it seemed as if that the game picked right up again, and that we were back at the beginning bits of the first half.
Yeah, I thought Reece Nelson actually looked a bit heavy-footed when he came on. He brought energy, but I didn't think he had his best game. I thought he could have released the ball quicker. He held on to it a bit long at times. There were times when a pass would be given to him and it'd just be a bit flat, and causes him to go that second late and have to recover it. But that one with Havertz, the chance that Havertz created for Jesus, he did really well there. But again, I think it started with him being a bit flat-footed. And it was one of those, Jesus on another day could have had a hat-trick. Right before those two came on, we saw the chance where Odegaard played Jesus into the box and he pulled it back. It was a great first touch, beautiful ball. And one of those where you're thinking, just smash that. Just you've already got one, just put your laces through it. Then he had the Havertz chance as well. And then obviously the subs came on. But with Nelson, I was glad to see him come on. He's someone that I want to get minutes. He's just signed a big deal. And also, I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans online that are really full of hot air when it comes to players like Reece Nelson, because they're all like, Nelson's Saka's back up, Nelson's this, Nelson's that. The minute you suggest playing Nelson, it's like, we can't drop the quality. So everyone trusts the process until their favourite player is going to get a rest. So for me, I was really glad to see Nelson get on the pitch. He's someone that I want to see get as many minutes as possible this season. And I think we've talked about him before. The quality's there. He needs to stay fit before he can really do anything. And getting those minutes tonight will definitely have done him good. But the other one, Tomiyasu, thought he had a really good game when he came on. And I've been really impressed with him every time he stepped foot in the pitch this season. I think he looks like the player he was 2 years ago. And I guess one of the things that we don't really know is the injury that he had at the end of the previous season, the kind of knock-on effects of that. And he talked about losing a lot of confidence and so on. So I think we're starting to see a confident Tomiyasu again, and one that looks like he trusts his body and looks fit to play. So on the ball, I was really impressed with how quickly he just slotted into that Zinchenko role, wanted to play there, looked like he wanted the ball as well. And I thought he looked pretty much at home. Obviously, he wasn't Zinchenko, but he looked good.
Yeah, he did. He put himself in that position. It was quite surprising to see him play so central, but he was eager to and willing to play there. And actually, some of the touches that he was making and the passes he was putting off, really impressive. And I guess when I was talking about young players coming on the pitch and lifting that level, I was also talking about Emil Smith-Rowe and Vieira, who come on and had a good 25 minutes as well of game time. And it was literally just before they came on, where we, just after they came on, where we scored the fourth goal. I, for one, was really pleased to see Emil Smith-Rowe come on. Strange to see him, have his first minutes this season in the Champions League game. But I guess Arteta wants to give these players a little taste of a reminder almost of what it means to play for Arsenal Football Club. These are the moments that we're playing for, and not just these moments. We're really loading up this season to have something to play, have a special season. So, I guess the same message could be shared to someone like Ramsdale. Despite you guys being on the bench here, you play a very, very pivotal role in what could be a really defining season in this club's history. We could accomplish something really quite special. We're on the cusp here of doing something incredible. So I feel like when they came on, the level, it got back to where it was. Odegaard scores a brilliant goal, 30-yard, typical Odegaard goal. Really, he just loads up a brilliant strike. And hits it, and it hits the bottom right hand side of the goal. And as you said, it was Havertz that starts to move by playing it into Emil Smith-Rowe. The pass was a bit heavy-footed into Nelson, but Nelson kind of forced to play it back to Emil Smith-Rowe, who outmuscles the defender to win the ball, keep it in play, plays it into Odegaard, and Odegaard does brilliantly. So the fourth goal, and at the beginning of the game, I was telling my brother, we need to score 4 goals today. I want to see us score 4. And thankfully they scored 4, and that was it. Subs came on, they raised the level, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the bench produce and that's what the bench is there. That's what it should be there for anyway. It should be a like for like always. When you're competing for titles, it should be a case that you're seeing a like for like substitute. The player coming on is going to be producing the same type of results as the guy, more 100%. Or less, as the guy who was playing on the pitch.
Yeah, and I think a lot of fans don't understand rotation. When I talk about rotating, I'm not talking about a drop off in quality. I'm not talking about reducing the quality of the squad and playing lesser players and resting players for the sake of it. A big part of rotation isn't just to give a breather to the players that are on the pitch, the Sakas, the Odegaards, the Martinellis and so on, but it is to keep the Smith-Rowes, Vieiras, Tomiyasus and so on. Those players need to be really, really sharp. And in the same way as you want to ensure those like first team players remain confident, you want to keep those players that are on the cusp of playing fully engaged and also really sharp so that whenever they are called upon, they're ready to go. Because the last thing you want is a situation like last season where we get a couple of injuries and all of a sudden those players just aren't ready to play. And we saw last year with Smith Rowe, he had been out for so long that there didn't seem a natural point for Arteta to bring him into the team. And you're right, it did seem strange that he was coming in for his first minutes in the Champions League, but I thought he did really well. It's great to see him on the pitch. Just the quick feet he has. He looks strong, he looks ready, and he was definitely blowing a bit after kind of 15 minutes on the pitch, which is completely natural. He hasn't played football. Give it a couple of games and that won't be happening. And there's probably also a huge adrenaline rush from him because he's finally got on that pitch and he's finally playing again in front of the Emirates crowd. So I think there's going to be a natural just rush of emotions for him getting on the pitch and then just having not played for a while. But seeing him again in an Arsenal shirt, it reminds you of what he can do. And there were a few times I was thinking if Nelson played it in a bit earlier, we could have seen a bit of Smith Rowe magic. But the big thing that I loved was every ball, he just wanted to get his foot to it. If we lost it, he was determined to win it back. And he worked hard, he looked good, and he looked pretty hungry as well. And then Fabio Vieira as well, like you've mentioned, with the level that he brought. I thought again he looked like a completely different player to the one we saw at the end of last season. Just confident, direct, and a player that his teammates looked confident giving the ball to. So I think we've got a real player there and one that is only going to get better as this season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's not really much to talk about in terms of the rest of the game. We see the 4-0 out. But the pressing topic now is the weekend, is the North London derby. And I guess before we depart from our conversation here, it would be nice to quickly have a look at that and maybe give our thoughts on it. Tottenham obviously have started the season off pretty strong, pretty well. Had a jammy moment against Sheffield United, and again, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned this on the pod or maybe on the preview show. I'm quite happy for Spurs to have a moment like that to give them a false sense of security. But what are you expecting going into the North London derby? It seems like it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, I think this will be the first time we play a team in the league that wants to play football. And I think Spurs will come at us. I think Big Ange actually, I said before, I was telling Monty on Tuesday, I really hate the fact he's Spurs manager because he seems like a great bloke and he wants to play football. So I think they're going to come out, they're going to want to play, they're going to want the ball on the deck. We're going to see Maddison really being involved heavily. Every player is going to work hard in a Tottenham shirt. And I think it's going to be a really committed game from both sides. Both teams will be organised and it's about us breaking them down. So because they will come out and play, there will be space for us to play into and there will be opportunities for us to drag them out of position. And for all their kind of tactical strengths this season and the grace that they're playing with, we've got much, much better players and we're a lot more advanced tactically than them. And I think it's a game that we should be going out to win. And a big part of that will be picking the right team. And I feel like Arteta gave enough players breathers tonight at the end of the game that he should be able to pick whatever team he wants and be confident that those players will be ready.
I feel like it will be one of those types of games where one team will be playing the emotions of the occasion and the other team will be playing a football match a little bit more composed, a little bit more level-headed, the latter being us and the former being them. I do feel like they are at the very early stages of where we were a few seasons back. I hate giving credit to Spurs or anyone associated to them, but it does seem like that they want to start playing football and they want to take the Arteta blueprint out of the old cabinet and cross it out and write Ange over it and try and replicate that style. So it's going to be super interesting. It's going to be one of those games where we're going to have to win. Anything but a win will be. I feel like it will be a negative result. I don't know about you, but I feel like if we're going for a title, these are the types of games that we're going to have to win. No matter how. What kind of a victory do you want Arsenal? Do you want to see Arsenal scrape out? Are you going to be happy with an ugly win, or do you demand something more dominant?
I mean, a win's a win in the North London derby, but over the last few years, we've really outplayed them, and especially at the Emirates. Last year, we outplayed them home and away. I think we will have more of the ball. Yeah, I think it'll be a good performance. That's what my gut's saying. It'll be a good performance, and we'll win the game. You're right. You can't lose these games if you're going for a title. You can't lose any game if you're going for a title against City, and that's the reality of it. So I think team-wise, we have to pick our strongest team for this game, and that may mean playing a weakened side. I personally would play the Vieira in midfield and Jesus up front, with everyone else the same as what we saw tonight. Who would you start with? Because the two big calls, and I guess the three big calls, are the goalkeeper, left 8, and up front, and left wing as well. If Trossard surely has to keep his place,
and left back as well, because you've got Tommy and Zinchenko, who both can do a good job. I guess I'm cautious of what Spurs can do on the counter-attack. And with the high line that we love to play, they've got so much pace up front to kill you. It's a little bit concerning. Kulusevski, Maddison, Heung-min Son.
Brennan Johnson.
I think Manor Solomon played. Yeah, Brennan Johnson. Manor Solomon as well for Fulham, who did quite well. So, and Bissouma looks like he's picking up a bit of pace. So, I don't know. I kind of wish that Arteta, as you mentioned at the beginning, he rotated a bit more for PSV, because then it would have given us fresher legs. But this is the momentum that we need going into the North London derby. You just hope that 4 days is enough for them to recover, recoup, and get back to full sharpness. With the way that Bukayo Saka played today, I think he's going to, run rings around Udogie if that's who he's going to be up against. Jesus as well. He will have a great day, a great afternoon with the performance that he put in today. Same with Trossard. I want to see, as long as Rice is playing, Odegaard is playing, I don't really mind whether it's Kai Havertz or Trossard, because those two in midfield are pivotal for the way that we move the ball forward. Do you know what? I'm not too fussed, who Arteta starts, even if it's Ramsdale, even if it's David Raya, because the squad is so well balanced now. It just doesn't matter. Whoever plays, they're going to put everything into it. We don't have a Willian anymore. We don't have a Granit Xhaka from 2016 anymore. We've got players who want to play for the badge and they want to play for their place. And that, I never imagined that we would be at a stage with Arsenal where you've got a squad of players who are, singing from the same hymn sheet and who have their heart in it to play for the club. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful time. And I guess, having said that, it's a good point to, a good moment for us to end the show. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's listened up until this point. Thank you very, very much. If you did enjoy this episode, please do give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Let us know what you thought of the show by reaching out to us on Twitter. You can find us over there at Arsenal Therapy. You can also find Adam over there at AdamKeys_, and you can find myself over there at Gunner Since 96. We will be back after the North London derby, but if you can't wait until then, make sure to head over to the Arsenal Therapy YouTube channel, where we will be talking in a little bit more detail, looking at our furry little friends down the road in a lot more depth and a lot more detail for the Arsenal preview show. I think that's what it's called, isn't it? Arsenal Therapy Preview Show. Yeah. And so make sure you head over to the Arsenal Therapy website too for the blog post, where we'll be breaking down all our thoughts and feelings on this game and much, much more. So until then, we'll speak to you soon. Take care. Have a lovely week. See you later. Bye-bye.